Hey guys, Altcoin Sherpa here. This is a November 9th market review, really just BTC USD and ETH USD. I wanted to make this a quick video on where we currently are at and where I think we are headed for Bitcoin. As always, this is not financial advice. This is just for educational purposes only. I'm not an expert. I'm not a professional. Do your own research. Okay. So where are we currently at right here? I marked these two levels on the weekly for Coinbase. Price reached 16,000, which I long thought was going to happen for many months now, mainly because I believe that there's a lot of liquidity up in these areas, the 16Ks and 17Ks, and I believe that price is headed towards there. And sure enough, price did go towards 16,000 and is pulling back right now. Where do I think we are going from here? I am not sure if price is going to totally stall out here and start heading lower. I am going to keep a very close eye out. It would not surprise me at all to see price move up higher and then come down. There's, again, more liquidity up here in the 17Ks, but price could have just reached this area and is now going to pull back. I expect there to just be a lot of sell liquidity up in this area, and I personally don't think that price is going to break this area on the first go. So yeah, I think that price is eventually going to head down. I just don't know if it's going to head down now or if it's going to grind here for a little bit, head up and head down, or just grind now then head down now. I will say that I don't believe that Bitcoin, this is the top at all. I think that Bitcoin overall, from a market structure perspective, this looks very different than in 2019, where you saw a 3-month accumulation, or not 3 months, 3 or 4, 5 months, I don't remember how much that is. Accumulation period at the end of 2018 going into 2019. Big run up here up to 14K, and then price went back down. I think the market structure right now is currently quite a bit different because you saw a lot more periods where Bitcoin ranged. And I believe that with this market structure making relatively higher lows, I believe that the probability of us eventually tapping 20K in the not so distant future is going to be much more likely than when price ranged here in the 3Ks and then going up to 20K. You saw these spurts of consolidation and arguably accumulation throughout the summer of 2020, and I think that it's very likely that price is going to eventually tap 20K, but we can talk more about that later. I don't believe it's going to happen quite yet. So where do I think that price is going to pull back? As I said, I believe that price will grind up and then either tap the 17Ks and head down, or it will start heading down now. What areas am I looking at for support? I am looking at 12K, and these swing highs should provide some support as well in 13 and 14K. However, because price moved up so quickly, I don't expect there to be a whole lot of support on the way down. Usually when you see price grinding up and then come back down, there's going to be a lot more support. This was the COVID special in March, so that didn't really happen. But you can see right here, price grinded and consolidated in this area from May to July, basically. Price came down as support and move back up. Whereas if you see large moves happen in a short amount of time, and then price comes back through those areas, there's not going to be a whole lot of support generally. And you can see that more on shorter time frames. That happens on lower time frames as well. So what am I looking at? I think that the obvious level right here, everyone was looking at 11.5K. This would be a really solid area of support in my opinion if price were to come there. And I also believe that 12K and 13K could provide some support as well. So what I'm actually expecting to happen is for price to dip down violently at first and then form a range. And it might not take this long, but I believe that price is going to dip down, form a range, and then in late spring start going to the moon. I think that all-time high level is going to get broken eventually. I do expect there to be quite a few sellers at the 20K mark. So I would expect something like, you know, hit 20K down to 17 and go up. And it's really going to depend a lot on retail and institutions as well, on how big the move is going to be. But that's my overall thoughts on Bitcoin. In summation, I believe that Bitcoin is going to pull back either here or 17K. It's going to come down to 13K or maybe, you know, the 12Ks, consolidate, move up. Okay, ETH USD, I believe, should follow Bitcoin to a large degree, but the ETH USD chart looks a lot weaker than Bitcoin, in the sense that it just hasn't pumped nearly as much as Bitcoin has. And I am going to mark some levels now. You can see this was the top. And right now, ETH is also consolidating fairly tightly between July to now. This really hasn't moved much, and this is arguably accumulation now. And this price action currently looks very similar to 2017, where price just basically accumulated all throughout the summer of 2017 after having that huge impulse move from $10 or whatever it was. And I believe that right now ETH is kind of accumulating, and I believe that ETH will, once it starts to move, it's going to test $800. And one other reason why I think that is because ETH has had really strong Decembers starting in 2017. You know, it went up like 20. Okay, so it went up like 240%, and then I remember even in December it went up. I think this is like more like 90% or something like that, starting in December. So December, I believe, starts these runs. It's not quite accurate. You get the picture. This is like 150%. But the point of this is that the last 3 years, ETH USD has had very strong runs starting in December that last, you know, this was for until middle of January. This was from early December to the end of December, and this was from the end of December to February. So the bottom line is that I believe that December is where you start to see a big spark and run up for ETH USD. And I don't see why this year should be any different. I mean, to me, this still looks really bullish. Generally, ETH USD does follow Bitcoin, but ETH/USD also has stronger gains than Bitcoin does starting in December when comparing the two assets. So I don't think it's that out of the question for ETH/USD to go, 80% up to the 800 area. And I'm waiting for volume profile to work. Overall, ETH/USD also hasn't really moved a whole lot the last few weeks. So even if Bitcoin does dump from here, I don't think that ETH/USD will really go, huge down, going back down to the 350s or maybe like the 300s, which would still obviously be a pretty big drop from here, but I don't really think it would go down that far. I think it would probably just head back down to the 350s and continue to consolidate. It might hit the range low at this 310 area before heading up. But I personally believe that ETH should be very bullish in December. And yeah, I think that this is going to move eventually, especially with ETH 2.0 and the DeFi coins also doing really well. I'm actually going to look at ETH BTC as well. So ETH BTC, this is an old chart I had before. I basically said that you could make an argument that ETH BTC was basically in this large, huge range since 2018. And you can see the EQ basically has been acting as an SR level. ETH BTC is generally a good indicator for the altcoin market. So if like ETH BTC does really well, then you can see alts as a whole generally doing fairly well. And right now, altcoins have been doing pretty well in the last 24 to 48 hours, but it has yet to be determined if that's going to be a sustained pump and run, or if this is just going to be, a temporary move in the short term, and then alts will start pumping a little more later on after Bitcoin is done doing its thing. But for right now, ETH BTC, it's still a fairly stagnant coin. It hasn't really been doing a whole lot. It wouldn't surprise me at all to see this go a little lower too. Like it's certainly possible that it goes to like 0.022. This would be the result of Bitcoin making a large run, in my opinion, to like 17K or something like that. I think that alt BTC values will go down. So that's kind of what I suspect would happen if Bitcoin went to 17,000, but we will see. Anyways, that's kind of my analysis on the market. Oh, one last thing. For ETH BTC too, I actually do believe that this one will also move strongly in December. Even though it's slightly bearish now in the short term, I do think that this, will eventually move. And, hitting 0.055 is not out of the question at all. If you look at the volume profile, I know this is kind of not really great to use or not really great to see, but this huge move right here was a very big inefficient move, and I'm expecting price to fill that out eventually. So I'm bullish on ETH BTC in the coming months, but in the short term right now, it doesn't look that great. Anyways, this is a quick market review. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks, guys.